Welcome to 805 Focus. I'm Dr. Cinder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect, and we will be bringing you the latest on your favorite nonprofits. So get ready to be inspired. Our special guest today is Veronica Cubillo, and Veronica is with Domestic Violence Solutions. Welcome, Veronica.
Thank you for having us.
Yes. So Domestic Violence Solutions, you folks do such important work in our community. And I have a feeling that there are some people who don't know about all the good work, or maybe they have a little idea, but they don't really know. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could tell us about what you're doing these days.
Yeah. So we're primarily known for our 24-hour crisis line and our emergency shelter programs. But we have a couple of other programs that are less known and are available to victims of domestic violence. We serve the county of Santa Barbara. So we're a small but mighty team. And through the crisis line is how somebody can go ahead and connect to all of our programs, like Housing First, that can assist with some costs that a family or a single client can accrue as far as utilities, childcare, emergency food, children's needs, clothing, rent and deposit assistance. We have our therapy and counseling team that not only provides temporary individual counseling, but they're also doing educational classes through Zoom. They're doing art workshops in the community that are open to adults and children. And that one is a little open to a couple of different types of individuals that not just those that are experiencing domestic violence. Those are the art workshops. We have our job and life skills program that assists the client with navigating the workforce, becoming employed, or if they're employed, increasing income by maybe completing some certifications, things of that nature. And then, of course, the emergency shelters, which we have one in Santa Maria and one in Santa Barbara.
Wow. Frankly, I had no idea you guys did all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I mean, I knew about the shelters, but you're doing a lot. Okay, so let's sort of unpack all of that. Let's talk about all the different things. So if the first point of contact, let's say a person is experiencing domestic violence, mm-hmm. They would call the crisis line.
Yes.
And then what happens?
Yeah, so through our crisis and information line is how somebody can essentially be assessed to which need they may have. We have our client advocates that man the crisis line. They are bilingual staff, so they would be able to assist somebody in English or Spanish.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah. We are looking to hire a trilingual advocate because in the northern county, Santa Maria area specifically, we do have a large community of Mixteco speaking clients. And so we would love to have somebody on our team that can, provide the direct assistance. But for now, we work with agencies like MyCop, Orense Indígena.
Sure.
That can provide the interpretation. So through the crisis line, at times we have clients that know exactly what they're looking for, and other times we have clients that need help getting there to finding and identifying the assistance they may need. Sometimes it's just a phone number that they need to another place, right, to get more details or enroll in something. Or at times it's with us to enroll in one of our programs or start an interview or intake process for our shelter program.
So tell us about your shelter program. You have 2 facilities, is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Santa Barbara and Santa Maria.
Yes.
And so a person can call the crisis line and say, for example, I need to leave my home immediately, and where can I go, or how does that work?
Yeah, so for our shelter program, we do a over-the-phone interview that can take up to an hour or so. Can be shorter, but over the course of that phone call and that interview, we're assessing a couple of different things. We're assessing the pattern of violence that's happened, the risks that there may be for them to remain in the area, the areas that they may frequent, whether it's them as a family, as a single individual, or them and their partner or ex-partner, in order to ensure their safety at our facility and also to start safety planning on how they're going to come in. So it starts with a phone call, right? Completing that interview. After that interview is done, we would coordinate to meet them in person for a second interview that's much shorter,
Mm-hmm.
and it's more to work out the logistics of like transitioning into the shelter and coming in and whatnot. So essentially, both of those interviews can happen on the same day, if they're looking to move on that quite rapidly.
Yeah. So safety is a big issue.
Right.
And then a place to be, a safe place, a shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the other things that you listed on your big list of all the things you do.
Mm-hmm.
So give me an example of those.
Yeah. So our Housing First program, it can either assist clients that are not housed in our shelter or maybe housed at a shelter. So we have clients that maybe are needing somewhere safe to stay for a couple nights, couple weeks, or maybe even a month. In the meantime, that they kind of solidify a plan to either move back to the housing situation they had now that either their aggressor or abuser is now removed from that housing situation. At times we have other clients that are needing to move to a whole new location, and that takes time, of course, right, to find the unit, identify and assess if they have the income to support themselves after our assistance. And so with the advocates, the Housing First coordinator works together to look at all areas that the client needs. So current income that they have, are they eligible for any other supports outside of us that may be available to them to kind of collaborate together and get this going either sooner or whatnot. And so it can mean moving into a new place. It can mean moving into their current situation and updating leases. It can mean a couple of different things, really. It depends on their situation. But it could be either a community caller or somebody outside of our shelter or in-house as well.
So what if the abuser says, okay, let's say someone calls and you arrange for them to come to a safe place and the person is there for a little while. And the abuser says, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't really mean to do that. Oh, gosh, please come back and la-da-da. I bet that happens, huh?
Yes, yeah.
And so what do you do then?
Yeah, so all of our services are completely voluntary. We don't want clients to feel obligated or like they need to check off something or complete something in order for them to be in good standing or anything like that, right? So if we've seen it time and time again, that clients are returning clients, or maybe it's their second, third time coming into our shelter program, or maybe even reaching out. And that's completely fine. We don't want to continue the stigma of, the fact that it takes a client about 7 times to break the cycle.
Really?
On average, it's about 7 times for them to break the cycle.
7.
And so we know that through the cycle of violence, it has 3 phases, one of them being the honeymoon phase, which is just what you mentioned and described, right? They're trying to make excuses or apologize and, really butter them up to come back. It's going to be better and whatnot. And sometimes, we fall into it because we have hope that that change is going to come through, or that this time it's going to be different. And so we'll inform them of, it's completely your decision, but let's consider some safety planning. Maybe if this is what you want to do, then let's plan for in the event it goes south, essentially.
Yes.
Or what about if you give it some time? You can still stay here. You still have time here with us. Do you feel like there's any other intentions there? So it's definitely a discussion we want to have. Not always do the clients want to have that discussion, or at times we don't even hear from the client that was maybe a reach out that happened. We do have clients, that experience a lot of guilt, a lot of embarrassment, a lot of different feelings, and so that we have clients that feel like they've almost failed us to some extent by returning or falling back into it. And we don't want to add to that, so we just want to have them know, that we're going to support you, whether it's returning or staying, whatever the case may be. We understand it's difficult to break. So,
gosh, how great that you are so sensitive to that. I'm sure the clients really appreciate it. So do you do any, I don't know, do you do any kind of services for the abuser, or do you refer them places like, I don't know, anger management or something like that?
Yeah. So we don't have any direct services to the aggressor or abuser, but we do have from time to time get calls from the other party looking for services that are either court mandated or
Oh,
appointed or whatnot, and it's often anger management classes. And so
mm-hmm.
we'll give them the information, right? Because regardless,
Yep.
our crisis and information line is there and
Yeah.
available. So we'll give them the information, but we don't have any direct services
Yeah.
through our
Well, that's
agency.
good, though. You give them the information, and it's up to them to do with it what they will.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about some of the other services that you've got. You've got a big list.
Yeah, we have quite a bit. So our therapy and counseling, they're able to provide temporary individual counseling sessions for adults. All of our services are specifically for adults. We do serve all genders, and that's for all of our programs. And at times, we do have clients that may not be ready to fully commit to meeting with a counselor on a weekly basis or biweekly or whatnot. And so a good starting point may be the educational classes. There's less of a commitment there because it's on Zoom. They don't have to be on camera, and they don't even have to share their name on their Zoom account if they don't want to.
Yeah.
They could just be listening in, but at a minimum, they'll get to see a face, a voice of our agency and our counseling team. And so we hope that will kind of get them warmed up to maybe considering counseling or considering one of our other programs and services. So that's the educational classes. They cover 6 different topics. It's essentially like a 6-week series where they talk about the effects of domestic violence on children, the effects on your person, on your biology, how to identify those red flags, the characteristics of an abuser, and so on. So they cover quite a bit. The classes are in the evenings, and they're completely free. All of our services are free.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. What the cost of all those services, even the shelter?
Yes. Yeah, it's completely free.
Golly.
Yeah.
So in the education classes, did they cover things like, oh, by the way, there are 7 stages, or here's what you might expect in the future?
Right. Yeah, they have a class that goes over what domestic violence is, and in that class it would cover the statistics, the cycle of violence, which is where the honeymoon phase, the tension building, explosion, and all this. So all of that would be covered. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's great. Yeah. So. Okay, so let's keep going. You've got more and more. So I like it that you call it a crisis and information, because I could see somebody might think, well, I don't know. Am I in a crisis?
Right.
But if they just want information, they can
Right.
call. I mean, they can also go on your website.
Right. Yeah. So we definitely want to emphasize the and information piece because at times it might be discouraging for somebody to call in because they might think they have to be in a state of crisis or an urgency in order to use or enact, but that's not necessarily true. We have family and friends of individuals that are experiencing domestic violence call in. We have partner agencies that are calling to refer somebody or calling to get more information for their client. And we have the individuals themselves calling in too.
Wow. And so I was thinking you must have a whole lot of people answering those phones, but you said you have a small staff. So, but you're hiring, right?
Yes. Yeah. We do have a very small but mighty team right now. We would love to add more to our team in order for us to increase our capacities. But yes, we are hiring. We have about 3 positions that we're looking to fill. Some of those are based out of our Santa Maria location, and some are in Santa Barbara. So we're definitely looking to hire and fill those spots.
Are you looking for any specific, like does a person have to have any specific background or training or that sort of thing? It's probably determined by the position itself, but in general.
Yeah. The one piece that we are requiring is that the individual is bilingual in English and Spanish.
Oh, right.
We do have quite a bit of clients that we serve that are monolingual Spanish speakers, and so that piece is definitely needed. Given that we are kind of in the crisis intervention world or crisis a field, it needs that type of background or criteria. But if you don't have it, I mean, you'll learn pretty quickly here.
Yeah.
You'll get a lot of experience. It's definitely an entry-level job being a client advocate, and you'll get to see a whole bunch of different scenarios you definitely might not have thought of. But we get to work with a lot of different agencies, with a lot of partner agencies, like the police department, medical offices, emergency rooms, other community partners that are similar to us but provide services in a different capacity. So you get exposed to a lot, learn a lot, and if the social work area is something you're interested in, I definitely think this is a good starting point.
So you probably work with Calm and other...
Yeah, CALM, FSA, social services. We have some other agencies that are most local, right, to the areas, like Good Samaritan, Transition House out here, St. Vincent's. So we work with a lot of different agencies.
What about schools?
Yeah, so for the we have quite a bit of families that might need to relocate due to the abuse. And so we do work with the schools to get them registered for their new school, get them registered into having the transportation access given the situation. Yeah, we need to work pretty closely with a lot of people at times.
Yeah, that is great. So Domestic Violence Solutions is a nonprofit, 501c3, and so I would imagine that you rely on financial donations.
Yes.
So a person could go on your website, for example, and I bet you have a Donate Now button there.
Yes.
And they can make a donation, and it's tax deductible, and they'll be helping a lot of people.
Yes. Yeah, we do have our website that has that placement for people to enter in their information and donate to us.
Oh, I know I was going to ask you. So on your website, you also, I think you told me, you also have a list of things that you like to be donated. Like, for example...
we have ongoing items that we can take in that are full-size toiletry items like shampoos, body washes, and whatnot. Full-size bath towels, pajamas, undergarments, socks. At times we have clients that come in with just the clothes on their back. And at other times we have clients that we ask them, to not worry about those types of items like toiletries, bath towels, so that they just focus on the major items that they may need for themselves.
Great. Wow. Okay. Well, we have a couple minutes left. Is there anything else you'd like our audience to know about Domestic Violence Solutions?
We're hiring.
We're hiring.
Refer friends or family over to us. All of this can be found on our website as well, along with our job descriptions, and use our crisis line. Pass it on to somebody. Start a conversation about toxic and healthy relationships. We just never know who might hear it. It might not be the person right in front of you, but somebody in the vicinity that, they might find that useful. So,
yeah. Gosh, I bet you are confronted with all kinds of wonderful, inspiring, and sometimes not so wonderful stories with all kinds of folks that come through your doors.
Yeah.
So, do you have someone that you're thinking of that maybe came through and you were able to find them shelter or whatever they needed?
Yeah. So, we have a lot of clients, different walks of life that come into our shelter. Not just because they've experienced domestic violence does it look the same for everybody, right? We had one family that this happened to be their second time with us. And they unfortunately, had gotten back into reaches with their aggressor. And this time it was really, really bad.
Oh, golly.
It was very physical. A lot of injuries to her head and face. to the staff that had previously worked with her. She was almost unrecognizable.
Oh my
given
gosh.
to the dangers, given to the injuries that she sustained during this time that she stayed with us. She was one of like the few clients that we do tend to, on a case by case, may extend more than our usual time that we have, given a lot of the barriers that she was faced with. So she was faced with, you know, needing to care for herself and a newborn and her older children. And the language barrier. She speaks Mixteco, and we don't have that on staff. So we have to work with, you know, a partner agency to kind of get the ball rolling. There was also, you know, the fact that she had a newborn, so she hadn't been working. She needs some income there to then transition into a permanent housing. And thankfully, with one of another partner agency, we were able to collaborate and, after her stay with us, move her into a permanent housing and basically secure her housing for well over 6 months.
Wow.
And so, you know, it was a good turnout after her stay with us, but the first couple of months having her was definitely difficult. Not only on her, on her kids, you know, different responsibilities they had to absorb, but thankfully there was a good turnout there.
Veronica, that's a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for your wonderful work, you and your team. And thanks for sharing it all on 805 Focus.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on 805 Focus, and we'll see you next time.